You're welcome. If it's okay with you, we'll jump straight into it. But yeah, it's lovely to meet you both. I'm Jannat. We're here for the People's Movies. Huge congrats on getting distribution for Gazer in the UK. I think in our post David Lynch world now, audiences are very ready for this kind of thing again. And I
Yeah.
mean, with, the most of compliments. But I'm also really impressed to hear that you both don't necessarily come from a background where you trained as filmmakers or screenwriters. And as a huge champion of independent cinema, I think that's a beautiful ode to independent cinema. You self-funded and shot on 16 millimeter film, and that last bit, really stood out to me. It's not a cheap thing to do, especially when you're self-funding, right? So
Right.
forgive the obvious question, but why was 16 millimeter so important to you? Why did you have to push through with that for Gazer?
Well, for a myriad of reasons, but the main one being that all the films that I grew up watching that I fell in love with, all the films that made me want to become a director, they were all shot on film.
Mm.
Uh, we were just talking to a gentleman before about Jurassic World, and
Mm.
you know, didn't love the movie, but it was shot on film, and it looks beautiful, and it has this like really tactile. I mean, it's alive. It's a living, breathing thing. The colors, everything pops so much more. So for me, aside from 16 millimeter being the right choice to tell this story in terms of the gritty nature of it, um, you know, I just, for me, I love film. I've been shooting on film since a kid. I'm not going to stop. If Kodak disappears, I'm going to find another way to shoot on film.
Yeah.
Hopefully they never disappear. But for me, it's just that's what cinema is. It's the digital cameras. I know there's a huge argument of that they can replicate film, and some of them get very close, but there's something really magical about
Yeah.
that moment when you hit record and you hear that ticking sound. And it's not just the fact that money is being poured down the drain. It's it really creates this energy on set where every actor, everybody down the line is just completely locked in and excited.
Yeah.
There's an
Yeah.
energy
Yeah.
that I feel like you're not getting on a digital camera that you're just rolling for 30 minutes, and saying let's do that again, let's not cut, let's just do that again. It's like you can't do that with film. With film, you need to really know what you're getting, why you're getting it, and then making the call that you got it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you talk about that tactility, especially with a film that feels very tactile, both in visuals and in sound. I was lucky to have the time to
Mm.
watch it not once but twice. And
Cool.
I know that you both have a little bit of a background in music. Well, not a little bit of a background, quite a significant background in music. And I thought that that was very interesting to learn after watching, considering the soundscapes that you guys, contributed to the film. Question for both of you really, but Ariella, if you want to go first, no problem. But I was wondering if, as you approached the character of Frankie, if there were any specific musical influences or any sounds that you were kind of immersing yourself in as you built that character, as you came to that character.
Yeah, that's such a great question. We actually got very lucky because as we were writing, Ryan was sharing pages of the script with our composer, Steve Matthew Carter, who he's actually with right now. He's visiting him.
Amazing.
So as we were developing the story narratively, Steve was also sending us his interpretation of the story through music. So we hadn't filmed anything yet, but he sent us like I don't know how many tracks, 10 to 15 tracks that just it embodied the script and it helped me like it actually helped everybody on set. Ryan would as we started to shoot, he would play some of Steve's music on set and we would all just sink into that world.
Mm,
So it was really the early stages of Steve's score that
mm.
that helped. Um
And it's a bright, bubbly world, so everybody was in such a good place mentally,
yeah.
Constantly, yeah, those noir stings, they didn't take their toll at all. None of that
No,
definitely.
no, not at all. But I think as we were writing too, we listened to a lot of Johnny Greenwood as we were writing, a lot of Trent and Atticus.
Two great
Um,
I
composers
have
for
I have a
cinema,
weird
great
one though.
composers.
There's a weird one that I listen to while storyboarding. Ariel, do you remember the artist that I listened to on repeat?
oh my God, the Staves.
The staves. Yeah, it made no sense, but it put me in the
I
right
love
place to like
that.
visualize the entire movie. I would just put it on repeat and just draw. And
Yeah, that
yeah,
just did
I
it
don't
for
know.
you creatively, I think that sounds. I mean, that's it's great that you had that because
I love
would have had a different product, I guess, otherwise. But yeah, I really love the sound of the film. It was one of those films that kind of made me like itch with suspense. That doesn't happen often, but like I was really on edge, guys. It was like I finished watching it for the first time at 2 a.m. Maybe not a good time to finish that film. I was a bit
perfect
unsettled.
time.
Oh, I guess so. I guess so. But I mean, Frankie's a very compelling character, not least, Ariella, because you have brought such an incredible performance to it, and I'm very pleased for you guys that that is being recognized post Cannes as well. As it's been distributed in the US and now coming to the UK. I'm excited for you to get that positive feedback again. But that story behind Frankie of, this time disorder, dyschronometria, is so specific. Um, Forgive the obvious question, but where did that come from? Why that disorder? What was the inspiration?
Right. I mean, so as we were writing the film, we started by asking ourselves, like, what kind of films we really just love. If
Yeah.
we were to make a film, like, what are the types of films that we miss, that aren't being made, that we wish were being made, that we always go back to?
Mm,
And among those films, and Ryan can speak more to this because I think he was the one who shared with me first these films, but it's The Conversation, it's
mm,
Blow Up, Blowout. We watched a lot of noir, and throughout that process, we started to realize that a lot of the films shared a writing structure called the spiral structure.
okay.
So Vertigo, um, oh my gosh, Vertigo, Memento, and The Conversation.
Mm.
Once we made that discovery, sorry, I'm getting to dyschronometria.
That's
This
okay. That's
like
okay.
4 years
Yeah.
ago. Now we started writing. Um, but at the same time, just
Mm.
completely independently of our, first phase of writing, I was reading a book by Dr. Oliver Sacks called The
Okay.
Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. He's a neurologist, and I just picked it up in Barnes and Noble one day
Mm,
'cause it seemed interesting to me, and it was, I mean, an incredible piece of not just piece of writing, but his findings on the brain and all of these very rare neurological conditions.
mm,
Um, he writes in the book very behaviorally,
mm,
which gives you this really kind of personal relationship to the person who has the condition.
mm,
Um, Throughout my kind of obsession with this book, I came across I asked myself, I was like, is there such a thing as a time perception disorder? And I came
mm,
across dyschronometria. And then Ryan and I spent a lot of time speaking to, neurologists and finding firsthand accounts. There were
mm.
few, but that's when we started to deep dive. So we weren't necessarily writing with that in mind. It was kind of just something we became interested in as we were
Mm.
finding the story.
Yeah, so like an organic interest that kind of, was so powerful it weaved its way in. I think that's great. You mentioned there about first-hand accounts, and that's going to be my next question. If there was anything, any personal experience from people that had influenced the film. But now you've mentioned that, and I suppose this is more of a question for both of you, seeing as you co-wrote, which I think is fantastic to have that kind of creative partnership. But this is such a layered film. On the second watch, I noticed little details and such a specific one. But when Frankie goes to the doctor and the doctor's got a photo of his daughter on the monitor, I don't know why I noticed that the second time, but I thought, you guys had to decide to put that there and build that little moment. I love the idea of set dressing, so that kind of stuff is just the stuff that I look out for anyway. But did your writing process feel really layered? Did you feel like you had to keep revisiting it? Did these details just come naturally, like second instincts, or was there a lot of thought and time behind decisions like that?
I love that you caught on to that moment
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for
Yeah.
giving me that to spot, so cheers.
But yeah, Ryan, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just get started with, you know, this, it was a very fluid process writing this script because Ariel and I wrote the first draft and we brought it to two dear friends of ours. And I was like, this is perfect. We don't need to change a thing. Even if they give us notes, I think we're good to go. And
Yeah.
then we read it out loud with them and I was like, this is fucking terrible. Like we need notes. Um,
Our first
and
draft was like 60 pages. We didn't have an act
yeah,
two. Like it was a mess.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was horrible. There was no body in the trunk of a car in the Meadowlands. But so
Wow.
what happened was we were coming to April 2021, and I gave us a very hard deadline of we're shooting, and we didn't have a finished script.
Yeah.
We had the beginning of the movie and we had the end of the movie.
Okay.
So that's what we shot on the
Right.
first weekend. And we ran out of money. We didn't have a lot of money going in. So
Mhm.
we shot the beginning, the end, and then over the summer, Ariel and I were hanging out and we're talking, and I was like, oh, I have this idea. At some point in time, we need to write a film where we include like a body in the trunk of a car in the Meadowlands. And Ariel, I see a light go off in her head. She goes, why don't we just do that in Gazer? And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. So it was a very like, we were really building as we were going. And then when we got into the edit, it was, they tell you make the movie 3 times. You're writing it, you're shooting it, and then you're editing it.
Mm.
Um, so each time was truly like starting from scratch in a way,
Yeah.
which is an incredible and humbling experience because, again, you make something and the ego inside you is telling you this is, if you do it exactly like this, it's going to be perfect. But the reality is you need the hurdles, you need the resistance financially or, whatever struggles to help carve out what it wants to be, because it wants to be something and you need to be listening.
That's extremely poetic, and I just love when we talk about independent cinema like that. I think you're right. These constraints that bigger studios and bigger financiers don't have sometimes, not going to name any recent films or anything, but sometimes result in processes that aren't as, they don't have as much depth as Gazer does. I very much appreciate a project that has potential for rewatch and like re-experiencing, and I really think this is one of those. I'm just excited people are going to be able to see it in cinemas. I'll just ask a couple more questions if that's okay with you guys. Is that all good? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Um, I'm very excited to know that, like I said, audiences are going to see it in cinemas, but talking about the fact that we now have a very big slate of horror and thriller coming this year. Um, do you think that Gazer is more of a horror or more than a thriller? If you had to, pop it into a genre slot like that, I was struggling myself, but I'm interested in your perception of the film as its creators. What do you think it is?
For me, it's always been a mystery thriller.
Okay.
um, the very like Lynchian dream sequences
Yeah.
uh, were kind of more. How do I put this? I feel like we definitely came to life while shooting that. We were shooting that, and our cast and crew, aside from Ariel and I, everybody was like, what is this? Because
Yeah.
again, we didn't have a finished script, so
Mm.
we're handing pages to our team on the day kind of thing,
Yeah.
and they're reading it and they're like, I remember our DP Maddie was like, listen, if you get into the edit and this doesn't work, like feel free to cut it. And I'm like, oh no, it's gonna work. And we literally shot. I mean, that was a tough weekend. We shot just
Mhm.
image, like just literally storyboard. We had to move. It was such a fast thing,
Two
uh,
days.
and I
Yeah.
think that those are some of the most visceral moments of the film because it's not horror for the sake of horror. It's an internal perspective
Mm.
on what Frankie is running from, what she's trying to reckon with.
Yeah.
So, and that's to me what horror should be. It's this internal look at society, at an individual, at a trauma, etc. And there's not necessarily jump scares in our
No,
sequences.
not really. Yeah.
I think it's just imagery and energy that we're trying to capture.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. No, absolutely. I think those.
I don't know if I answered your question. I
No,
apologize.
no, you definitely didn't. I like that, as a viewer, it sounds like um the dream sequence, well, your intention with the dream sequences is very much what I received as a viewer. So that's always a nice thing to be on the same page as the creators, isn't it? But I think that eerie feel of the film, that's definitely going to stay with me, and I know it will stay with viewers for a while. Final question, always like to look a little bit towards the future, especially with such a strong debut. What is next for you both as a creative team of filmmakers? What's next? What's next on the slate?
Ariella?
I say too much, so
Okay,
I'm gonna let Ryan
valid. Very
You
speak.
valid.
all right. All right. So you talk about how the film rewards you on a rewatch.
Yeah.
We actually have Easter eggs in this film for the second film.
Oh, I love to
So
hear that. It makes me so happy. Great.
yeah, none of the characters or situations are going to return, but we will be shooting in the same world.
Ooh.
Frankie will be out there somewhere. She won't be returning, but she'll be out there somewhere with her daughter. And yeah, that's what's next. We're working on that.
Well, I'm eagerly anticipating that. Thank you again so much for your time for this film. I can't wait to see it in cinemas for the third time. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you. You
Appreciate
too.
you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.